Amazing twist. A struggling nurse discovers an unknown billionaire CEO collapsed in the snow. Emily's breath misted in the frigid night air as she stepped out into the howling wind. A seemingly futile task ahead at the local clinic just beyond the snow-laden streets of her small Michigan town. The long hours had become a part of her rhythm, a secret dance of exhaustion barely tangled in her spirit. But she pressed on, the weight of her mother's sickness always pressing heavier on her shoulders. The whispers of financial struggle danced behind her like unwanted shadows, creeping into her very thoughts. Suddenly, in a flurry of wind and snow, a figure lay motionless on the ground. An unknown man collapsed in the snow, vulnerable and alone. Panic surged through her. "No," she gasped, rushing to his side. He was unconscious, and as she shook him lightly, the fear of failing him coursed through her. What if she couldn't save him? Would the rumors taint what little reputation she clung to? Would this mean no redemption for her sacrifices, just more whispers of failure? "Please, stay with me," she pleaded, her voice cracking. She fumbled through her medical training, striving to remember everything, while her thoughts spiraled. The moral dilemma pressed tight against her chest. Should she keep her head low and focus only on saving him? Or was there an opportunity here? If he were to survive, how might the community see her? There was an aching tug in her heart, a realization cutting through her desperation. Saving him would not erase her struggles, but might elevate her standing in this harsh town. A blizzard roared to life, smothering the world outside the clinic. The wind screamed as it blew snow against the windows. As Emily desperately worked to revive him, time felt heavy. Visions of her mother, her weakened body, and mounting bills washed over her in a dizzying tide. The clinic was unyielding against the storm, and she felt cornered, both by the relentless weather and her own choices. Irregular breathing filled her ears, hers mingled with his. Calm slipping away, she treated him. She needed something to hold on to in this chaos. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A sudden gasp erupted from the man. He stirred and opened his eyes, revealing a facade of confusion blending with awareness. "Jack," that was all he managed to whisper before shaking the fatigue away. Their eyes locked, and with that moment, promises began to linger in the air, a shared understanding of burdens and fears. Emily's heart sank. Who was he? What was he hiding? The storm outside mirrored the turmoil igniting within her. The weight of her existence collided with the flicker of ambition. He was an unknown man now, yet potential success danced before her. But would revealing his true identity, should it come to light, mean shattering the bond they had begun to weave in their vulnerability? A tempest of emotions erupted within her: anger at the world for leaving her in this position, desperation to rise above it, an attachment to this man who had ignited something within. Secrets hung heavy around them, and just like the snow outside, she realized these truths could bury her dreams as easily as they could transform them. As the blizzard raged on, Emily stood at a precipice. Each choice could redefine not only her fate, but Jack's. Would she choose personal gain and risk everything? Or would she cling to the roots of integrity etched deep in her heart? Uncertainty gripped her, the decision looming large as she grappled with the freedom to aspire or the loyalty to help. A clash of dreams unfulfilled against the raw need to protect something real. The storm elevated, but so too did her anxiety. The night was long, and choices hung heavy like dark clouds waiting to break. Emily steadied her breathing, painfully aware of the weight pressing down on her chest. Jack's eyes searched hers, and she could feel a flicker of connection flare between them, a pulse of familiarity despite their sudden, chaotic encounter. He had survived, but the battle was just beginning. As they both settled into a moment of silence amid the raging storm, Emily's mind raced. She couldn't simply let him slip away, both from life and the opportunity his existence represented. Was saving him an act of altruism, or was it a vehicle for her own ambitions? The line blurred until it felt almost indecipherable. "Can you sit up?" she asked, her voice more steady than she felt. Jack nodded, slowly bringing himself into a sitting position, the effort clearly taxing. She noticed his sharp features, marred now by exhaustion, and that vulnerable look of near oblivion he had worn moments before. "Oh, what happened?" he croaked, his voice gravelly, breaking Emily's thoughts. She gulped, torn between the urge to tell the truth, a mix of concern for him and gratitude for the chance to prove herself, and the strategy she knew could one day serve her better. "You collapsed in the snow," she said, tightly gripping her resolve. "You were unconscious. I called the clinic. Help will be here shortly." She hesitated, but the impulse to know more pushed forth. "What were you doing out in the storm?" Jack's eyes fluttered, hinting at something unspoken. "Just needed some air." His words felt inadequate, an excuse to cloak a deeper discontent. Her curiosity was piqued. This unexplained tension hung over them like the snowflakes outside. "It's dangerous to be out there like that," she stated, allowing a moment to compel him to share more. "It's safe here," he said, and for a fraction of a second, a smirk tugged at the corners of his mouth. One corner of her mind wrestled with his discomfort, while a larger part urged her to press on, to uncover the story that could intertwine their fates. The voices of her mother, the financial fears, loomed larger in her thoughts, despite Jack's presence. If he had wealth in his life, perhaps he had connections through him, she might gain the resources needed for her family. Would that drive her to exploit the fragile bond growing between them? "I wanted to get away, to think." His confession reverberated through her. If he was trying to escape, they were not so different after all. The blizzard outside intensified as if echoing the turmoil in both of them. "Then stay," Emily blurted, surprising herself. "I mean, we can talk. Just until the storm subsides." She imagined the conversation fractured elixirs of their fears and ambitions mixing in the dim clinic light, a chance to heal not only him, but also herself. "Thanks," he said, the weight of his gratitude painting a shade of earnestness across his features. They were trapped together, cocooned by the snowstorm, but with each moment, the stakes increased. What would emerge from this newfound connection? Emily felt her resolve strengthen as clarity crept in. This could be the moment that changed everything, and she couldn't let it slip through her fingers. Intense concentration pulled her focus back to Jack, who was still collecting himself. She searched his eyes for secrets, hints of wealth that could lead to her aspirations. But amid the scheming thoughts, an errant doubt flickered. Would grasping for ambition at the cost of true connection bury her? This impending storm had transformed from a raging snowfall into an avalanche of potential risk and reward. As they dove deeper into vulnerability, the question loomed larger: could she navigate this treacherous path without losing sight of herself? Suddenly, the clinic's door slid open, a fresh wave of cold rushing in alongside it. Emily turned sharply, a jolt of anxiety surging through her body. The moment of truth had arrived. Would fate produce unexpected visitors, or would they be left to grapple with the storm and their choices in isolation? Emily's heart raced as she squinted into the sharp gust that billowed through the clinic door. The swirling snow seemed to carve shadows across the room, a chilling reminder of the danger outside. She tried to focus on Jack, but her mind whirled with possibilities: who could be entering this temporary refuge, and what impact they might have on the delicate conversation she had envisioned. A figure stepped through, shivering and swathed in thick winter gear, their breath visible in the cold light of the clinic. Emily's instinct was to reach for Jack, to shield him from an interruption that could dismantle the fragile thread of connection they'd begun to weave. However, her nerves settled when she recognized the nurse from the clinic. "Lisa, what is the situation? Is he all right?" Lisa's professional demeanor stirred Emily from her spiraling thoughts. "Just tired," Emily interjected quickly, scanning Jack's face, which bore traces of internal struggle but also relief that help had arrived. Lisa approached with a clinical ease, checking Jack's vitals while Emily hovered nearby, propelled by a sudden surge of indignation mixed with protectiveness. "I was here with him," Emily asserted, her voice slightly sharper than she intended, surprising even herself. Was it the prospect of having her control threatened, or was it something deeper, an instinct to guard whatever bond had sprung up in the storm? Jack shifted, perhaps sensing the tension. "I'm good, really. Just needed a moment to catch my breath." Lisa lifted an eyebrow, a slight smirk beginning to form. If you say so, but it's my job to make sure our guests are in the best condition. That seemed to snap Emily back to the reality of his situation. This wasn't just about her aspirations anymore. This was about Jack's health. As Lisa continued to check on him, Emily found herself slipping away into her thoughts again, considering the implications of Jack's revealed vulnerability. Her initial desire to support and engage with him felt almost superficial now, like placing a band-aid over a deeper wound. The tension she felt between ambition and connection grew more palpable, a weight of expectation that stifled her. "Why do you need to isolate yourself, Jack?" she ventured, her voice low but persistent. "What about you is worth saving?" Her words were a soft nudge toward honesty, a challenge layered with curiosity and a hint of desperation. She needed to understand not just the man before her, but the depths of her own motivations. He met her gaze, and for a heartbeat, the world outside faded. His eyes flickered with a blend of recognition and wariness. "You really want to know?" Emily nodded, her breath hitching in anticipation. What truths lay buried beneath his tough exterior? "Yes, I do. Believe it or not, we have some things in common." The intensity of her own circumstances began to surface, wrapped in the ribbons of vulnerability that braided through her own existence. Their connection seemed to crack open, a raw dialogue of uncertainty and hope. Whatever held them hostage, the blizzard outside or the constraints of their lives, was forging a bond she hadn't anticipated. But just as Jack prepared to unveil whatever ailed him, the clinic door swung open once more. This time, it wasn't a gust of wind that entered, but a figure carrying an unmistakable air of authority. "Jack, I've been looking for you." The smooth, commanding voice shattered the fragile moment they shared, overshadowing the warmth that had begun to thaw the chill in the air. Emily's mind raced. Who was this newcomer? An opportunity? A threat? Whatever the answer, her world had just shifted, and she felt herself teetering on the edge of her decisiveness. With the stakes now higher, a new revelation was on the cusp. Would this presence draw back the curtain on Jack's truth, or reveal Emily's ambition in stark light? The time had come to face not only the reality of Jack's identity, but her own shadowy motivations hidden beneath the facade of compassion. Emily's heart thudded painfully in her chest as Jack's expression morphed into one of surprise mixed with dread. The figure in the doorway was tall and confident, exuding authority that resonated with the air meticulously charged by the sudden shift in dynamics. The clinic felt stifling, the brisk wind from the outside world now seeming mildly oppressive. "Who is that?" she thought, her mind already concocting possible backstories for this new presence. She had thought she knew the stakes at hand, but this addition complicated everything. The swirling snow and stark realities outside melted into insignificance alongside the looming presence that had stepped into her confined world. "Renee, really? Now?" Jack's voice held a tremor of irritation, framing an unseen history between them. Emily's instincts kicked in, perceiving an undercurrent of tension that begged to be explored. The revelation jolted her. Jack was not merely a wounded stranger lost in a storm. He was someone with a past, one that could now threaten the newfound connection they had begun to build. "Jack, you need to come with me," the woman insisted, her voice firm but oddly compassionate. Emily's thoughts raced. Was this woman a colleague, a supervisor, or something far more complicated? The walls began to close in, her professional resolve colliding with a personal urge to dive deeper into Jack's world, to understand him, to assist him, even if just for this fleeting moment. "What do you want with him?" Emily found herself questioning before rational thought could temper her instinctive protectiveness. The challenge sparked an unexpected fire within her, a need to claim her role in whatever was happening. Renee turned her gaze toward Emily, assessing her with a keen eye. "And you are?" "I'm his nurse," Emily retorted, her tone steadied by an impulsive sense of duty. It was strange to realize how fiercely she clung to that title. It felt like armor against the chaos closing in on her. And yet, beneath the surface, a dreadful sense of vulnerability began to seep in. Who was she to assert herself against this authoritative figure? "Listen, it's not what it looks like," Jack interjected, the panic dancing at the edges of his voice. "Not what it looks like," Emily echoed, cutting him off, her frustration boiling. It was too late for half-truths. too late to shield any part of him from the realities they both needed to face. Shadows of her own life flickered into consciousness, her relentless ambitions, her demands of self-worth lived not just for herself, but, oddly enough, for the clients she chose to support. What is holding you back, Jack? The question slipped past her clenched jaw before she could think better of it. She remembered those moments of honesty they'd almost shared, teetering on the edge of vulnerability. He was not alone, and neither was she. The charged silence was palpable as Jack weighed his options, clearly torn. This is complicated, Em. The weight of his admission hung in the air. Complicated. A term laden with unanswered questions and unfulfilled desires, not just in Jack's narrative, but in Emily's spirit as well. Lisa stood quietly in the back, eyes darting between the two, sensing the friction. Renee broke the silence. Jack, I'm here to help you, but you must trust me. We don't have time for games. Emily could feel her jaw tightening. Could this be another twist in Jack's path? Game or not, the stakes were clear. Trust was not just a matter of convenience. It was the foundation of any connection they could hope to build. Emily took a deep breath. This could derail everything she hoped to nurture between them, but the way ahead appeared increasingly uncertain. Wait, Emily said, her voice now resolute and steady. If he goes with you, I need to know what's really going on. What's at stake here, Jack? The request came out more as a demand, and in that moment, she realized how far she was willing to go to break through the walls he had built. Could she unearth the truth that would transform their trajectories? Would she dare expose her own vulnerabilities in a bid to seek clarity? What lay beneath the layers of secrets surrounding Jack was now poised to surface, but the tension in the air thickened further with every passing moment. As Jack's eyes locked onto hers, the heartbeat of potential transformation surged through Emily. The weight of the impending revelations hung like a storm cloud, ready to unleash a deluge of truths. But what would emerge from that tumult could alter everything. The door behind Renee cracked open wider, revealing the world outside stormy, chaotic, and entirely unpredictable. As whispers of unearthing a deeper narrative filled the silent clinic, Emily's mind danced with urgency. What truths waited to be unleashed, and what role would she play in the unraveling of it all? With every rising question, she could feel her resolve solidifying. After everything that had brought her here, it was time to confront the deeper aspects of her own ambitions. But was she prepared to face judgment both from Jack and herself? As silence enveloped them, the answer felt precariously close yet wholly out of reach. Jack's skin paled under the scrutiny of Renee's gaze, a mixture of dread and resignation momentarily marring his features. Emily didn't want to look away. In that instant, she realized that Jack wasn't just a patient in need of care, but a puzzle whose pieces were far more complex and entwined with her own. His vulnerabilities stirred something fierce in her, a flicker of familiarity drawn from her own struggles in the demanding healthcare environment. Jack, please, Emily urged, her voice now a whisper, what is happening? You don't have to do this alone. For a fleeting moment, his eyes softened, revealing a glimpse of the man she had begun to connect with. It wasn't he lost on her that beneath every facade lay a story waiting to be told. Her resolution crystallized. She longed to break the cycle of secrecy and emerge into the light of honesty, not only for Jack, but for herself. Renee shifted slightly, her posture hinting at impatience as she adjusted her long coat. We need to leave now, Jack. This isn't about you. It's about your future and the choices you make today. In that moment, the weight of those words settled over Emily like a heavy fog, thickening her resolve, but also thickening the air with uncertainty. Jack was inches from making a decision that could set in motion a cascade of consequences. Was his future tied to her, to their shared moment, to this claustrophobic clinic? You don't know what you're asking, he muttered, the conflict playing out across his face. What don't I know, Jack? She pressed. What is really at stake here? I can't help you if you don't let me in. Her voice was firm now, fueled by the desire to foster vital change not just for Jack, but for her practice of nursing, her own dreams swirling wildly with the same uncertainties. His silence felt deafening, an implosion of turmoil simmering beneath the surface. Emily observed him, absorbing his conflicted state. This wasn't just about saving Jack. It was about aligning her own purpose, her belief in the value of intimate connections, and the necessity of vulnerability in healing both for patients and for caregivers. "You can trust me," she offered softly, and she meant it. "Everyone has something they're dealing with. I know it's hard, but you don't have to face it alone." In those few seconds, the air grew thick with potential. She felt a bond daring to unspool under pressure, fragile yet tenacious in its promise. Yet, what if he chose to turn away from it? That thought felt like a punch to her gut. Renee stepped forward, cutting through Emily's hopeful haze. "I can't emphasize this enough, Jack. If you don't act, you'll be putting yourself and those who care about you in jeopardy." The impact of those words sunk in, bonding the moment with urgency. Here stood Jack, a man teetering at the precipice of decision, and her the nurse who yearned to pull him back from the edge, hesitant yet determined to redefine her purpose. Jack's gaze flickered momentarily to Emily. It was a look that ignited a fire within her. There it was, the recognition that together they could navigate the turbulent waters ahead. But what if he fled instead, retreating further into the darkness she could help illuminate? She braced herself for his response, her heart steadying as determination coursed through her veins. "I don't want to be who I've been," he finally admitted, his voice a soft blend of desperation and resolve. "But seeking help? It feels like admitting defeat." Emily realized she was standing on the edge, too, not just for him, but in her career as well, a crossroads she never anticipated. Would she feign reassurance while silently struggling to foster hope? No, she refused to allow that. "We can redefine what strength looks like," she asserted, her thoughts racing. "It's not about defeat, it's about building a better foundation for ourselves." The conviction in her voice surprised even her, echoing the very truth she had sought to embrace in her own life. Her professional aspirations danced tantalizingly in front of her. She wanted to foster change, not just for Jack, but for herself, the nurse who had the power to evoke transformation rather than simply respond to wounds left unattended. With Renee's insistence still lingering, the crossroads loomed ever larger. Across the room, one choice lay in the shadows, both intimate and terrifying. The other whispered promises of newfound clarity and collaboration. As Jack weighed the consequences of his lingering silence, Emily felt her pulse quicken, ready to dive into whatever awaited them. It took one question to push the tides. "Do we take a step forward together, Jack?" In that pivotal moment, eyes locked, real possibilities danced in the space between them. Would they embrace the uncertainty or succumb to the familiar? The stakes had shifted, and a palpable tension hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, a loud crash outside broke the silence, causing them all to jump. The world beyond had erupted again, a harbinger of the chaos lurking just outside the clinic's protective walls. What awaited them there could rewrite everything. But the choice to move forward was only just beginning. Would they step into the storm side by side, or would they linger in hesitation, forever wondering what might have been? Emily's heart raced, echoing the sounds of the chaos that stirred just beyond the clinic's door. The crash had jolted the air, a stark reminder of the fragility enveloping them. Jack's expression shifted, fear battling with contemplation, and she could sense the hesitation clawing at his resolve. "Jack," she urged, her voice steady, "this is it. We can either face whatever's out there together, or we can let fear close this door for good." Her words felt like a catalyst, urging him to navigate through the tumult rather than retreat. "Why should I trust you?" he replied, the challenge in his tone causing her to steady her breath. Deep inside, she questioned her own authority. Could she bear the weight of his trust? "Because I'm right here, and I'm choosing to confront my fears alongside you," she answered, the earnestness of her intent igniting her own courage. The thought of being inextricably linked to Jack's journey deepened her sense of commitment, reflecting her yearning for not just Jack's healing, but her professional evolution as well. "Please," she added, connecting her gaze with his. "If we hold back now, think of the regret. Think about what this moment could mean for both of us." He inhaled deeply, searching her eyes in an effort to unearth certainty. Time stretched, each second an eternity, as Emily willed his decision into existence. The external noise intensified, as if the world were beckoning them to step up. Renee stood by, arms crossed, her impatience morphing into a quiet intensity directed toward Jack. "Make your choice, Jack," she urged, an edge sharpening her tone. "Do you want to keep running?" Her words dug deeper into Emily, reflecting the inner plight she too had faced during her career, a choice to remain in the shadows of doubt or to emerge shaped by resilience. Channeling that energy, Emily took a tentative step closer to Jack, urgency pulsing through her own determination. "I want to hold it against you if you need time, but I believe in us," she said, each word deliberate. "Let us confront the wreckage together." With that, an unexpected roar erupted from beyond the clinic's walls, shattering any remnants of stillness. The sudden gust of chilled air swept in, bending her resolve and stirring Jack to action. His defiance against the storm mirrored her own struggle, the suffocating need to escape the safety of the familiar for the unknown. "Okay," he finally muttered, a hint of courage piercing through his despair. "Let us see what's out there." Together, relief washed over Emily, burning off the thick fog of fear that had shrouded her mind. Together, she echoed, her heart thudding in sync with their shared decision. There was no way to predict the chaos of the storm outside, but she felt a surge of empowerment in this moment of unity. Hand in hand, they made their way toward the door, the dread of uncertainty clashing against their newfound determination. With Jack at her side, Emily felt an invigorating resolve crystallize within her. As they stepped beyond the threshold, the festive noise of the clinic faded, replaced by the chaos of the unknown. Snow whirled around them, blinding and disorienting. Despite the tempest outside, a flicker of purpose ignited inside her, the prospect of revitalization sparked by shared vulnerability. Emily scanned the tumult, revealing shattered remnants of the world they navigated, a world of missed chances and unheeded warnings. Then, just as they braved the charging wind, a figure emerged, crumpled against the snow, an unexpected beacon in the storm. "Is someone there?" Jack shouted, instinctively pushing through the flurry, desperation radiating from his voice. "Help!" came a muffled cry, piercing through the raging winds. The moment hung heavy with possibility. A crucial decision lay ahead. Would they pause to assist at the risk of losing their momentum, or would they maintain their course into the unknown? Emily's instincts kicked in. Duty surged forth. She couldn't ignore a life in peril. The heart raced as what began as a step toward personal resolution morphed into a visceral test of their values, a direct confrontation with their choices that not only extended to rescuing a stranger, but offered a glimpse into the very essence of who they were. As she reached for Jack's arm, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would shape not just their night, but their futures, drawing them closer to a revelation neither had anticipated. The storm loomed louder, and with it, a rising tide of consequences that beckoned them forward. Would they take the plunge together or succumb to the swirling uncertainty that lingered? Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she and Jack rushed toward the crumpled figure. The frame of a man was barely visible through the swirling snow, limbs angled awkwardly, half buried in the icy drifts. The muffled cries for help depicted not only desperation, but also an immediate moral challenge. Could they afford to be soldiers of mercy, or would their fear compel them to turn back? Jack hesitated, a flicker of insecurity darting across his features. What if it's a trap? He shot over his shoulder, the eerie storm reflecting his anxiety. Emily felt her blood surge with purpose, dismissing his fear. "He is calling for help. We can't turn our backs." The conviction in her voice surprised her. The weight of responsibility was not just for a stranger, but also an affirmation of her own worth as a nurse. With each step, she pressed against the biting wind, courage overriding the instinct to retreat. The figure emerged from the shadows of the storm, face obscured by frost, but body unmistakably human. A tremor of urgency slid through her. Healing was her profession, and here was an opportunity not only to save a life, but to redefine her own narrative. "Stay close," she instructed Jack, her gaze locked on the unconscious man. As they neared, details sharpened. A tailored jacket, fine boots, and a watch glinting despite the storm. This was no ordinary person. She knelt beside him, instincts honed through years of practice taking over despite the chaos. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, shaking the man's shoulder gently. His eyes fluttered, struggling to focus as he gasped for breath. The unmistakable signs of distress unfurled before her. "Help!" Cold, his voice was a rasp, laced with confusion and alarm. With her clinical mind shifting rapidly into high gear, Emily grappled with his condition. Shoulders shaking, she removed her coat and wrapped it around him, a small beacon of warmth against the bitter cold. She had given herself to this moment. Each pulse of her adrenaline hammered home the urgency of every decision. Jack, meanwhile, hesitated at her side, uncertainty clouding his resolve. What if he asked Jack? Emily cut him off, snapping her focus back to the man. We need to stabilize him. Can you help me? This wasn't just about the stranger. It was about confronting the doubts that sowed division within Jack. He needed to see that stepping into the unknown didn't always bear consequences. Sometimes, it bore revelation. Visibly strained, Jack's features hardened into a decision. He knelt next to Emily, taking a deep breath as he accepted the challenge. They worked quickly together, Emily calculating which actions would maintain circulation while Jack retrieved his phone to call for more help. As minutes passed, she felt exhilarated, a strange rush coursing through her veins. Though the storm rattled around them, they were encased in a moment of clarity, united in purpose and action. Stay with us. Help is on the way, she urged, pushing the stranger to remain coherent. Emily felt her professional identity reforming, shaping itself into something buoyed by crisis and connection. Each second was an awakening. She realized that fear had indeed crept into her life, but she had control over her response. At last, the man's breathing steadied. His eyes met hers, a flicker of recognition sparking among the haze of pain. In that instant, she understood. This man possessed a narrative of his own, one woven through power and vulnerability. Thank you, he murmured, his voice husky yet steady. She nodded, heart full but cautious. We'll get you out of this. Words of reassurance flowing freely, she wrestled with the implications of his presence. Who was he really? What truth lay beneath his composed exterior, hidden from the storm? Just then, snow swirled up violently as another gust sliced through the air, sharp as the uncertainty hovering around them. A realization dawned this night had shifted in more ways than one, and soon, they would unveil intricacies that intertwined their lives far beyond this moment. What is your name? She asked, the inquiry echoing with unspoken weight. He blinked, eyes narrowing against the winds. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. As his words clung heavy in the air, Emily felt the fragile boundaries of her existence quake, leaving her uncertain of what the next moment might reveal. The unraveling threads of their encounter beckoned with the promise of hidden truths. She needed to know what lay beneath. What she wouldn't yet fathom was that this evening's events would bind them all in ways she had never anticipated, thrusting them into a dance of fate that could alter everything. Would this encounter bear the weight of their choices, or lead them deeper into unforeseen peril? As the wind whipped around them, Emily's mind wrested itself from the enigma of the stranger's words. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. What could possibly be hidden behind that statement, behind the air of desperation yet unyielding resolve in his gaze? The storm roared on, a cauldron of chaos reflecting her compounding thoughts. Why wouldn't I? She challenged, her voice firm but laced with urgency. This was not the time for reservations, especially not from a man in apparent distress. The truth had to be unearthed, not just for his sake, but for her own. Her nursing career had been shadowed by self-doubt. Peeling back the layers of someone else's struggle might reveal pages from her own story. The man shifted slightly beneath her coat, grimacing. I'm someone who doesn't need saving, he coughed. I've lost sight of myself. His admission resonated painfully with Emily. She, too, felt the weight of her own obscured identity, buried beneath responsibilities and the challenges of her demanding job. The late nights, the hustle, and the weariness, all of it built a wall she was slowly learning to dismantle. Perhaps this man was grappling with similar demons, one she hadn't yet recognized in herself. Then let this be your moment of clarity, she encouraged, looking deep into his eyes. It's okay to need help. She felt the certainty of her profession coalesce into something deeper, more personal. This encounter was a bridge, a chance to confront the very fears and vulnerabilities that had woven themselves into the fabric of her life. Jack's voice broke through her meditation, carrying a hint of frustration. Emily, we should focus on getting him to safety rather than Jack, she interjected, her patience fraying. Stop thinking of this as just another rescue mission. This is more than that. The challenge sparked a flicker of resentment within him. More than that. We could be the ones in danger, you know. The tension between them shifted. They were not just assisting the man, but wrestling with their philosophies. Jack's rigidity countered Emily's fluidity, mirroring the internal conflicts that plagued their professional lives. She needed him to understand that heroism sometimes lay not in actions, but in the acceptance of vulnerability. In that moment, she further recognized an emerging sense of agency within herself. Would she continue to let others define her path, or could she become the architect of her own narrative? It bubbled within her, a passion igniting her willingness to step into the unknown alongside a stranger. Glancing back at the man, who winced yet offered a faint smile, she felt a kinship forming. "What do you do?" she asked impulsively, following the thread of vulnerability he had spun. "Before this happened, I mean." He hesitated, perhaps surprised by the mundane nature of the question amidst the gravity of their situation. "I was a CEO of a tech company," he admitted, though the words seemed to carry their own burden. "Why does it feel like that's not the entire story?" Emily's curiosity propelled her forward. The intersection of their worlds, her hands-on healing and his abstract leadership, felt increasingly vital. What could she learn from his struggles that would enhance her own professional journey? The wind seemed to still as he contemplated his response. "Because I've been drowning in my own expectations. The higher you climb, the more distanced you become from others. It's isolating." His confession unearthed a sudden urgency, reminding Emily that their discussions needed to branch from self-revelation into actions that could change their lives. She recognized the potential for her own growth within this shared experience. "Perhaps tonight," she began, allowing the reality of their connection to wash over her, "isn't just a chance for you to be saved. It's a chance for me to face my own fears as well." Jack observed, clearly torn between skepticism and an urge to support her newfound resolve. "Are you ready to help him?" she challenged, shifting gears. "Or would you prefer to let your doubts hold you back?" The man raised an eyebrow, eyes sharp with interest. "Perhaps we are all here to redefine who we are." As Jack inhaled deeply, weighing her words, a gust of wind whipped back into motion, swirling around them all. The uncertainty lingered, but Emily remained steadfast, convinced they were at a precipice of transformation. "Let us get you warm and stable first," she declared decisively. "Then we can figure out the rest together." Yet, as they worked efficiently together, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was only beginning to reveal a web of connections that would entwine them all irrevocably. A decision loomed on the horizon, one that could either unravel or unify their disparate lives, a truth yet unexplored. As the city lights flickered in the distance, visible now through the snow, she wondered where this journey would lead them next. Would confronting their vulnerabilities bind them together, or would it lead to an inevitable parting when the storm calmed? And what awaited beyond the immediate necessity of survival? That question pulsed beneath the surface, hinting at the depths yet to be uncovered. The tension simmered as they huddled close against the persistent chill, breath curling into the frosty night air. Emily felt the sudden weight of responsibility as she wrapped her jacket tighter around the stranger, hoping to shield not just his body, but also whatever ethereal part of him that had dimmed. "Why did you stop being the CEO?" she asked, her voice almost swallowed by the howling wind, as it seeped through her layers and settled into her bones. She searched for deeper understanding, her professional instincts sharpening, eager to learn, to connect. His eyes cast downwards, reflecting a tumult of emotions. "Because I wasn't living, it was just an act. I tried to fit a mold that I thought defined success. But it was suffocating." A flicker of recognition sparked within her. The truth resonated like a distant bell tolling in the fog. She had been just as guilty, conditioned to chase after accolades and validation. The late nights at the hospital, the sacrifices made at the expense of her own happiness, hadn't she been caught in a similar snare? "Is that why you ended up here?" Jack broke in, his skepticism cutting sharply through the moment. "All that failure led to you collapsing in the snow?" "No," he replied, his voice gaining strength. "I let expectations consume me until I lost direction. I thought I could handle it all alone, but in the end, isolation felt like failure." And there it was, the thread Emily needed to grasp. "What if we could redefine that?" she proposed, enthusiasm creeping into her tone. What if you rediscovered not just your professional identity, but your true self? Jack stared at her with disbelief, but she noticed a fleeting flicker of intrigue behind his furrowed brow. She couldn't help but wonder if he felt the pull, to the yearning for something beyond tasks and titles. As she took a deep breath, Emily felt an undeniable urge to confront the barriers constraining both the man beside her and herself. I can't stand by anymore. Not when there's a chance for us to confront our limits, she urged, her heart pounding with newfound fervor. Let us not go back to who we were before this moment. Let tonight be the catalyst for real change. Jack shifted uncomfortably, his resolve wavering as he considered her challenge. Emily, pushing ourselves further into the darkness maybe that's where the light waits, she interrupted, her own fears fading slightly under the urgency she felt. Each word propelled her forward, cutting through the heaviness that clung to them. What if we can find clarity amidst this chaos? The man raised his gaze to meet hers, a flicker of hope sparking in his eyes. In some ways, I've been waiting for a chance to stop hiding. But how do we begin? We start by abandoning the story of who we used to be, she answered, emboldened by the trembling resolve that swirled inside her. We share not just where we've fallen short, but where we still aspire to soar. What would that take? But as they stood on the precipice of potential transformation, a crushing gust of wind surged through them, echoing the uncertainties that lingered. We need to get you to shelter first, Jack insisted, his voice lifting just enough to pierce the unyielding storm. His eyes were resolute now, reflecting a commitment that hadn't been there moments ago. Right. Safety first, Emily agreed, but her heart drummed a different rhythm, one that whispered of deeper revelations yet to come. Each step toward the nearest building felt laden with questions, yet also possibility. What awaited them once they broke free from the expectations that had bound them? As they trudged forward through the drifts, anxiety trailed behind them, but was offset by breathtaking potential. It didn't escape Emily's notice that the stranger's story and her journey now intertwined, forming a tapestry woven with threads of vulnerability and tenacity. And just as a distant light flickered at the corner of her vision, the real weight hit her. Would she be ready to confront the unknown while dismantling the fortress of her past, or would she inscribe another chapter of indecision? Each faint illumination beckoned a choice, a path less traveled, but one fraught with revelations that would test the very core of who she was. As the shadow of a building loomed closer, Emily felt the simmering tension give way to anticipation. The next challenge was on the horizon, urging her to step forward. What truths awaited in the sanctuary beyond the storm? The building came into view, a sturdy structure battered by relentless winds but unwavering in its stance against the blizzard. As they drew closer, the warmth emanating from its interior seemed to pulse like a beacon, whispering promises of safety and sanctuary. Yet, beneath that inviting garb lay the raw reality of what lay ahead. Emily pushed through the door, helping the stranger inside, her thoughts racing. The comfort of shelter was not lost on her, yet this was only the beginning of their personal transformations. She was aware that courage could only be the first step. Real change demanded self-reflection and often came with painful honesty. Inside, the warmth enveloped them, and she could already feel her heartbeat slowing, steadied once again by her determination. She gestured to the stranger to sit on the battered sofa near the wood stove, its flickering firelight offering solace amidst swirling chaos. "Thank you," he said, his voice steadier now, though the vulnerability lingered in his gaze. "Let us get you warmed up first," Emily replied, busying herself with a blanket draped over the lounge chair. She handed it to him, her hands brimming with purpose. "I've really lost touch with what me looks like," he continued, wrapping himself in the blanket, an act that outwardly softened his sharp edges. "Everything I've built is about being the best, and that led me to this. Perhaps what you've built wasn't meant for you," she suggested softly, her mind racing back to her own struggles, stacked responsibilities that threatened to crush her dreams of what it meant to be a nurse. "We often get lost fitting into a society that craves perfection," she added, recognizing the parallels between them, however disparate their journeys had been. Jack remained still, a soft sigh escaping his lips as he processed her words. "How do we even start over?" he murmured, his vulnerability shimmering in the air between them. I think we start by stripping back those layers, Emily offered, the idea flowing naturally. Let us share not just what we've done, but who we want to be. Her eyes flicked to Jack, who had drawn closer to them, witnessing their exchange with cautious curiosity. He seemed engaged, and the possibility of real transformation sparked hope within her. Perhaps, amidst uncertainties, they could collectively redefine what held true significance in their lives. Why did you become a nurse? The stranger asked Emily. His interest ignited a fire in her soul. This was her moment to illustrate the very heart of her journey. I became a nurse because I want to help, but at times, it feels like I'm held back by the constraints of the job. Like I'm just racing against a clock rather than really connecting with my patients, she said, her voice steady, though colored with frustration. Tonight has shown me that those connections could be the key to unlocking both our identities, yours and mine. His expression reflected understanding, a shared pulse of longing resonating in the air. Jack, whom she had thought so rigid, his focus now animated as if he were breaking free from chains. Maybe admitting we need help is what allows us to start living, he spoke, a hint of realization woven in his quiet resolve. Yes, that's it. Emily nodded eagerly. Being vulnerable isn't a weakness. It's the root of our strength. We're all here. We've survived this storm, literally and metaphorically. Let us not waste the opportunity to redefine ourselves. As they formed their circle around the fire, an unspoken bond began tethering them together, a shared acknowledgement of their past struggles and hopes for the future. It transcended their external identities, digging into the essence of who they were beneath societal constructs. The stranger inhaled deeply, as if gathering courage. My name is Daniel, he finally stated, the lines of his face softening. And perhaps rebuilding begins with simply being truthful for ourselves and each other. With that, the air hung heavy with anticipation, but this wasn't merely about revealing secrets. It formed a mosaic of the lost component of each of their journeys: compassion, healing, growth, and connectedness, the foundation of what they could become. Emily leaned in, inspiration brightening her eyes. Then let us make a pact. Let us agree to be true to ourselves, whatever that entails, and to support each other along the way. Jack nodded, his internal walls beginning to crumble. Yes, I'll commit to confronting my past, to reshape how I connect with myself and with everyone around me. As they solemnly acknowledged this newly forged pact, across the room, Daniel's gaze sharpened with determination. I'll commit to discovering what I truly value beyond fame and fortune. Good, Emily said, her heart swelling. This is more than just a moment. It's an opportunity for true transformation. We will not hide from the storms inside or out. The three of them came together, each recognizing this moment as a launchpad for redefining their lives, an acknowledgement that healing can only commence when honesty reigns free. In the depths of loneliness and despair, they had found a thread of connection that tightened around them, a beacon guiding them toward brave new beginnings. As laughter filled the air, tempered by stories of their trials and tribulations, Emily felt a sense of exhilaration wash over her. This was the culmination of not just the evening's events, but of the profound realizations that had driven her forward. They had taken a leap of faith, confronting individual fears, and in doing so, they were on the brink of achieving something magnificent, profound personal growth shaped by genuine human connection. This was Emily, the brave nurse, the burgeoning advocate for mental health, and a woman resolute in finding her voice. This could be the moment of genuine fulfillment she had longed for all along. Before long, the night ceased to drift, and Emily felt her confidence firmly grounded in the fiery warmth they had ignited. This transformation wasn't a solitary battle. It was a collaborative effort, finding meaning in the unfolding tapestry of their lives. Yet, as a new dawn beckoned, she silently pledged to carry these revelations forward, not just for herself, but for every patient who demanded a real connection beyond just being labeled. Because in this storm through the challenges that rendered them vulnerable, Emily had finally discovered who she could become. This was not merely a conclusion, but an opening, a recognition of possibilities waiting to be explored. The true journey would continue, and nothing would hold her back. Now, as the last embers flickered low in the fireplace, Emily understood that this chapter closed not in defeat, but with unprecedented triumph, ready to transform her vulnerable insights into concrete actions. She would embrace the future with undeniable resolve alongside unexpected allies who shared their mission, a genuine commitment to healing, to redefining what it truly meant to care. And with those thoughts circling in her mind, the storm outside began to ease, boding not just relief but signaling a fresh, guiding light for the paths they would forge together. So, if you relate to stories of personal transformation and courage, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to witness more emotional journeys that challenge boundaries and redefine success. Leave a like to feed the algorithm and keep these powerful stories alive. Every single engagement matters. Comment below your thoughts on Emily's evolution and share your theories on what comes next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could find inspiration in the tales of overcoming obstacles. Together, we can enhance connections that transform lives.